Good morning and welcome to another Flexso webinar. Today, Jan de Winter, HR Project Manager at Carrefour, will talk us through a part of the SuccessFactors implementation at Carrefour. My name is Bart van Hoven. I'm Competence Lead at Flexso for People, and I've also been the Project Manager on Flexso site for the Carrefour implementation. Jan will share some insights on what was done during the project and what the project approach was. So we actually used the Flexso Accelerators for SuccessFactors as an approach in this project. So in the next 2 minutes, I'll briefly explain this concept. Now, Flexso Accelerators for SuccessFactors is a package solution to implement one or multiple modules in SuccessFactors. It's a ready-to-use solution on best practices, and then that we have gathered, let's say, from the many implementations that we did at Flexso. Now, this fixed set of solutions for SuccessFactors modules are using a pre-configured scope, a fixed time, and a fixed price. So for the customer, this really serves as a fast end-to-end solution to start with, but it remains available for improvements and extending the solution afterwards. So we can assess upfront with you as a customer any important requirements and either address any gaps with change management or take them along in the setup. A typical SuccessFactors project basically starts from a blank sheet of paper. Now, with accelerators for SuccessFactors, we have a jumpstart as a base configuration is already available. So we only need to focus on some major or minor decisions. And by leveraging these best practices, we can save time and resources, and as such, speed up the time to value for you as our customer. Now, SuccessFactors is like a big box of Lego, full of potential configurations. And that's what you purchase with the licenses. Now, we as Lego masters, SuccessFactors consultants, we have the expertise of building your solution. So you can basically get going with the out-of-the-box best practice solution in no time, because we have built, let's say, or we have put together these building plans. Now, if you have more requirements, then you can add the additional support poles, or add a bigger shovel, or add a backhoe loader. You know what I mean. Now, this is, enough about the theory. Let's hear from Jan how this was applied in practice at Carrefour. Over to you, Jan.
Hello, everybody. Thank you, Bart, for the introduction. My name is Jan de Winter. I'm indeed for the last 2.5 years, I've been working for Carrefour. I'm in preparing this digital roadmap and then doing what we called phase 1. Big advantage is that you don't have to explain Carrefour. Most of you will know the retailer. So we will pretty quickly go into the project itself. We will emphasize a lot on the approach and the objectives. Then see how the accelerators gave advantages, and then some lessons learned, and of course, questions and answers that you can ask. When we started this project, Carrefour was in a lot of change. And one of the big ambitions of Carrefour is that they grow from a business unit of 3 types of Carrefours to an omni-channel. And the mobile digital part of it is very important in that. Carrefour does not want its managers to be behind the screen somewhere in the office. They want their managers to be on the floor together with the clients. So they want to simplify. That's a very important part as well, and they want to enhance the skills of their employees to give better service. So that's a big strategic objectives, and SuccessFactors has been very important in achieving these goals. But also from an IT strategy, there is a very important change that is going on. In fact, Carrefour wants to move to the cloud for 100%. That's a decision that they have taken. There are two ways of doing that at this moment. One is these kinds of projects where cloud applications are implemented, and the other one is, in fact, moving the applications from their own data center to external data centers. So the project in HR, the roadmap has two big phases. We are now at the end of phase one, so we are in what we call the side-by-side situation, but I will explain it a bit more in 2 minutes. But in this first project, we also implemented soft HR solutions. So from the as-is, the first step we did is to implement as soon as possible the talent solutions. Then we come in the talent hybrid situation, as this slide is showing. And then we implemented also Employee Central, and we linked Employee Central to the existing SAP HR system from which the payroll is then delivered. In this session, we will only talk about the talent solutions and the way we implemented the talent solutions, because it's there that we used the accelerators. So the scope of that part of the project is here in blue. It's in fact Employee Central, which we'll not discuss, the learning management system of SuccessFactors, performance and goals, and development and succession, from which we implemented mainly development, and then recruitment and onboarding, which was also implemented. You see a lot of modules at the same time in one project. It's a challenge to implement this. From a project planning perspective, what we wanted to achieve is to go very quickly to a pilot situation. I will explain later why this is so important. But as you can see, this was the planning we created before the project started. We were still in negotiation with our implementing partners. And we already knew that we would have this big challenge and that we would have this long rollout. So we the big thing is that the planning that I created then is still exactly the planning that was used during the whole of the project, and we were exactly in time with this project. The accelerators help a lot in that aspect as well. 4 months for the implementation of the 3 modules. Then we did, during 4 months, a pilot in a few stores. Then we had improvement cycles, improving some of the things that we noticed during the pilots, and then we went for the rollout. That's what this slide is showing us. The approach and the objectives. Well, when we started at Carrefour with this project, there were so many changes that we can really talk about a VUCA environment. Carrefour had just announced that they would do a layoff of quite some people, and they were creating a social plan for that. They also announced that they would do a transformation of their hypermarkets, that was going on as well. In the HR department, there was also a big change, and we had some changes coming up. The problem with all of this changing when you are implementing a system is that you can easily get stuck in a way that you have to take decisions, but since you are doubting the outcome of all of the changes, or they are contradicting outcomes, people do not want to take a decision because they are afraid that afterwards the decision will not work out. That's typically what happens in such a VUCA environment. So what we decided was, well, we have to learn quick, and if we make mistakes, we have to be able to correct them. And why was that? Because we had been talking about digitalization for quite some time, and we needed a project that made it become a reality. So the Carrefour in Your Pocket project, which is the name that we use also for the SuccessFactors project, was very important. It would have, for the first time, a real digital result in the stores. Very important to understand is that at the moment that we were doing this project, 6,000 of the 9,000 employees at Carrefour are not connected. What does it mean? Well, these employees, they work in the stores, they have no access to systems of Carrefour, they don't even have a user ID, they don't have a password, they have been working there for many years maybe, and they never opened a computer. So they were very operational, they don't have an email address, so you cannot communicate with them in a digital way. The only way you can communicate is on paper. So the ambition to go digital, of course, is a huge gap. If you know that people were not allowed to use smartphones in the stores, and then you come in and you say, hey guys, we're going to give a smartphone to everybody. What do you mean? Yeah, we are going to work with a digital mobile solution for human resources. I can assure you, the first times that we gave these messages to the managers in the store, we got all kinds of reactions, but non-positive. So it's a huge gap. So knowing that we could get blocked when decisions needed to be made, knowing that we had to to close the gap, yeah, it's important that we had a very good way of communicating. Clear vision, this is what we're going to do. Understand that maybe it might not be so easy. Give clarity, options. You will see that the improvement cycles are very important in that part. And then just try hard, fail fast. Just do it. That's the main thing that we wanted to get in our project. So back to the planning then. We didn't know what was going to happen when we started in the stores, when we would come in there and say we do performance and goals on a mobile phone, and you will have the possibility to give continuous feedback. Yeah, the only way we could know how to deal with it is going to the stores as soon as possible with a solution and see what happens. We have 84 stores at Carrefour. In fact, we have 800 stores, but 84 stores are owned by Carrefour. So we couldn't do that in all the stores at the same time. So we picked 2 stores in order to try that. So it was very important for Carrefour to be able to implement very quickly. And that's the 4 months. We implemented 3 different modules of SuccessFactors, which is, I think, very fast. Then we went into the stores, and big thing is we learned there not only about the solution, but also about the communication, also about how to do the change management. So we learned a lot during these 3 to 4 months. And we also had to change some things that we installed earlier because it didn't really work the way it should. So that's the reason why we did this planning. It was really, really important to have such a possibility. So I think I just explained all of these. Implement very fast, try out what is working, what is not. Adapt where we were wrong, and then start a controlled rollout, about 9,000 employees. The big advantage of the improvement cycle during the workshops is that you can say, okay, I don't know either, let's try it. And when it's wrong, we can still improve it afterwards. So, the accelerators. Well, what is the big advantage of the accelerator? For instance, if you look at performance and goals, I think in most companies, in almost all companies, performance and goals has a phase in which you define goals, and then of course a phase in which you evaluate goals. Maybe There is 6 months in between, maybe there is a year in between, maybe there is a money outcome for the evaluation, maybe not. But a lot of these things are the same in all of these companies. So also at Carrefour, it's not very different. So you could use this accelerators because they already have these kinds of things in them. And it means that you can implement much faster. So the 4 months for implementing all of these modules is based on these accelerators. The second thing is, very interesting in a VUCA situation, is that you limit the number of decisions that you need to make, because a lot of decisions are predefined and already in the standard process. So you don't have to decide on them. So your workshops are easier. Your workshops, you do not need that much workshops, and you can plan everything much better in advance. And if you need a change, you can still do it because you have all the functionality within the SuccessFactors module. You just don't need to decide on every little detail in order to get it used. It made the project a lot cheaper. First of all, it's a fixed price approach, which is very interesting for us as a client. The deliverables are easier to describe because some of them are already packaged in the solution. You get a better insight in the amount of work that is still to be done. You get easier to plan. And as a project manager, it's easier to follow up on what we did. It was also cheaper if we look in the comparison with the other bidders. We had in the RFP process, we had 3 remaining bidders. The fixed price with accelerators was much cheaper than the others. Of course, that does not say everything. I can only state that when I compare the prices that were given, that the price was cheaper. During the project, you could get the impression that yeah, everything is predefined. So why do I still need participants in my workshops? Well, of course, not everything is predefined. There is still enough room for specific client decisions. So we still work in workshops with subject matter experts. Yeah, the thing is that the workshops are more following the system's features compared to the blueprinting we had in the past. I did projects in the past where we had a blank sheet of paper and the consultant asked, and how do you do this? And how do you do that? And we had to explain everything we were doing. Well, I was thinking, yeah, but your system has a way of working. So I don't want to explain all of this because maybe I want to change it. And here, in these kinds of projects, cloud projects, and also certainly with accelerators, you are much more led by the system. And in fact, yeah, if you go for a cloud solution, that's one of the things that you have to do. So also less workshop time lost on discussing the generic parts. Like I said, if you have the performance and goals, yeah, you have goal setting and you have goal evaluating. You will always have that in a performance and goals solution. So why discuss that in a workshop with all of these people? So another advantage is that since your planning is known upfront, since you have less discussions on in or out scope, your project management gets a bit easier. A big advantage too, if you have these creative subject matter experts in your team that always want to change and evolve, well, you can say now, yeah, you need to stay within the accelerator boundaries. Sorry, this is what we bought. Sometimes it helps the project manager as well. There are some challenges, some attention points. So some project participants feel it as a restriction. Certainly at Carrefour, this is one of the first projects in the Carrefour history, IT history, where we really say we go for the standard solution. Most of the time, Carrefour had the habit to implement really tailor-made solutions for Carrefour. So people are not yet used to that. And yeah, they come up with the saying, well, but it is not going to work in the stores, but because yeah, in the stores they need to have it like this and like this and like this, and if you do it in another way, then it will not work. Well, that's not, of course, only related to the accelerator idea. It's related to the cloud idea as such. So it's something we had to deal with. But yeah, at a certain moment in time, they understand that's the way it's going to be. Very important is the importance of testing. It remains as important as it was before. It's not because you work with accelerators that testing becomes irrelevant. No. I think it's even more important to do the testing early in the process, early in the development process, because you have less sprints, you have less time, and at a certain moment in time, there is already so much configured that, that if you want to change at that moment in time, that the changes become very expensive. I must admit that in the project that we did, we didn't always do the testing as we should have done, and I think sometimes, yeah, Bart was not always pleased with us coming up with late time changes. But yeah, that's one thing that you need to keep. You need to keep this way of working as we did in the past. Some lessons learned. For instance, the first one, we implemented LMS, Learning Management System, with accelerators. It was ready in October 2018, like the planning said. So we had this beautiful new system in which we could do blended learning, which was also the goal of the project. The only thing was that, except for the learnings that we already had, yeah, we could not really fill the system, because the creation process of e-learning is something that demands a lot of change management and a lot of expertise as well. And yeah, we didn't get that up and running until now, June 2020. So it's okay to have the LMS ready, and it's perfect that the LMS is getting ready quickly and smoothly using accelerators, but you still have to see the whole picture and see that, yeah, you will not get the real benefit out of it if you do not also work in the same time on the creation process. Unless, of course, you do the creation process in another way and you buy in the material. That's, of course, another discussion. But there are not that many organizations that make e-learnings about putting the vegetables in the right way, or cleaning the kitchen after you have been working on meat or bread or whatever. And all of these things happen in Carrefour. So Carrefour is doing these e-learnings themselves. Another thing, performance and goals of SuccessFactors is emphasizing on the continuous feedback as a very important concept. So we implemented it again very quickly, and the continuous feedback was included. It was already ready in 2018, but we saw that also during the pilot and also afterwards during the rollout that the continuous feedback was not really used, because it's a concept that most managers do not really understand, and they need to be trained. They need to get specific communication and change management on their management style, and continuous feedback in the management style is something, yeah, that is quite challenging. So it's good that the solution was ready quickly. But it's not only the solution that is making the project a success. You need to have also the the change in the business environment. In this case, our training department that was understanding that they need to create specific training on continuous feedback in order to make that happen. Okay, that's the story I wanted to bring. I will go back to Bart for some questions and answers. Okay.
Thank you, Jan. Don't leave yet. Huh? You may want to check if there's any questions at this point in time. So there we go. So first question. So if I understand correctly, there are no limitations in the accelerator approach. Well, there are limitations to the fact that we have a predefined scope and a predefined time frame associated to that. So we assess with the customer to say, okay, this is what you're going to get, huh? And as such, this is let's say something that we agree upon, huh? If there are changes throughout the project, then I mean we can absorb these, but that will then typically be absorbed as a change request, huh? Now, if you look at SuccessFactors, then obviously there is no limitation. It does not mean that we put in place SuccessFactors using an accelerated approach that SuccessFactors itself becomes limited. You still keep the same, let's say, set of functionality as any other client, and you can still enhance and upgrade or change anything at any given point in time. Okay. Let me see for another question here. I think, Jan, this is one for you.
Hello. Yeah, is this part of an international project? No, it is not. It might be a bit strange, but at Carrefour, at this moment in time, we still work on a country-based basis. So it was a project for Carrefour Belgium and only for Carrefour Belgium. We do have some communication about the project to other countries. Italy was interested, France was interested, but it was not an international project.
Okay. Sorry for the sliding in and out of the screen, but we still need to keep our social distance as well. Huh? So how did you translate the standards of accelerators into operational processes of Carrefour? Jan, is that one that you could pick up?
Hello. That's a very good question. It is not black or white. It's the operational processes of Carrefour have been changed slightly, not completely, by implementing SuccessFactors. So it means that for some parts of the processes, we went more to the standard of SuccessFactors. On the other hand, we did adapt some of the standards of the accelerators into the way of working of Carrefour. For instance, in performance and goals, there are 3 processes that are used for Carrefour for 3 different groups of people, where we used the standards and then we adapted the process in order to make it the way Carrefour did it. So it's not really a problem. It's not that you are completely stuck with the standard. So you can adapt the standard and go more to the operational process. Of course, if the operational process is very far away from the standard, then that might not be a good decision. But you can also, like we did for some parts, change the operational process a bit and go more to the standard way of working that was foreseen in SuccessFactors. I hope this answers the question.
Okay. So how would you describe working with the Flexso team during the implementation? Well, I can...
That's a tough one.
It's a tough one, yeah.
To do this in public? I've been doing quite a lot of projects. So this is the main thing that I do. And I must say the way of working with the Flexso team during the implementation was always very open, constructive. That's the most two important characteristics for me for an implementation partner, that you need to be on speaking terms, even when changes are there, or when tension is coming because of the heat of the project. So that's for me very important. Always open and constructive, looking for a solution. And the name itself says it. They are pretty flexible as well too. And so I can only describe it as a positive experience. That was the word that I was looking for.
Okay, so we have another question. So how did you manage the transition phase, the legacy applications and SAP SuccessFactors at the same time?
That's also a very good question. As you saw in my slide in the beginning, we are doing several projects at the same time. So we did the soft HR project was a bit like a project that was separate. When we started it, we also started the project on the Employee Central implementation, the data migration, and the replication towards SAP HR. There has been a moment that it was very difficult because there was too much attention to the rollout and all of the change that needed to be done to also be very focused on the bigger picture and the bigger project. As you saw, we went live and we did the rollout in May, June 2019. We went live with the Employee Central and digital, data migration and replication in February 2020. So it's much larger, much bigger, and it's much more complex. So I think from a project perspective, it's important to have two teams. One that is really focused on the work on personnel administration, the legacy, and the data migration, because you need to keep your focus on that. It's a lot of work, and you need to be you need to understand really good how these things work. While the soft HR projects are much easier. Okay, we had a huge change to make, but from a technical perspective or a project perspective, these projects are pretty, I would say, easy. It's maybe, but compared to the legacy projects, yeah, it's difficult. So the situation at this moment is that we have the master data in Employee Central for personnel administration and organization management for the contracts. It is replicated daily towards SAP HR. And from SAP HR, we transfer the data into time for time and attendance and the planning system, and into the payroll system for the brutto netto calculation. That's altogether a very complex situation with 3 applications in a row and the necessary interfaces. We are now planning the next phase in which we can simplify again all of this situation, because it's the situation that we are in now is pretty costly and was also meant only to be there on a temporary basis. I see there are other questions coming in, Bart.
Okay. Let me see here. Is all your reporting SAP SuccessFactors, or is a part in a separate BI? Which BI would that be? Did you evaluate SAP Analytics Cloud reporting?
Not yet. Not yet. At this moment, we report from SAP SuccessFactors for everything that is related to soft modules. For the data that is related to, let's say, salary calculation, FTE, and these kinds of things, we still use the reporting from the existing reporting from SAP BW, because the data is replicated anyway, and we can still use that data from there. We did not evaluate yet the SAP Analytics Cloud. We do have quite some difficulties with reporting in SuccessFactors, so I do think there is enhancement needed. But we didn't do the Analytics Cloud now. Somebody is working on the reporting, and we started only from February to work on this, so it's a bit early to answer these questions.
I think if I may add on that, I think indeed the shift towards the embedded version of SAP Analytics Cloud, so people analytics within SuccessFactors, which has been recently released, will also already be a significant step up compared to the current reporting tools. This one. So even though you mentioned EC was not part of your presentation, I'd love to hear more about your experience with EC as a feeder of master data to the soft HR modules. For example, for people with concurrent employment, do you send the 2 employments to learning with 2 different managers for 1 employee?
Oh, I will take that separately because I have to check that.
Okay.
Okay. I will take this question separately because I have to check how we would do that at this moment. I cannot answer correctly enough based on without checking with one of our technical consultants. But it is an important question. So we have your name, we have your email address, so we can contact you on this, and I will certainly answer the question, but then properly.
I would say I think the reason we also focused on the talent modules at this point in time is also because let's say the story about the EC setup and all of that also really is a topic that deserves maybe a webinar on its own. So, but we can indeed come back to that in more detail. What else is we here? You mentioned the change to digital in the stores. What is their feeling after go live?
Well, the go live as such was difficult. That caused quite some frustration because we had to hand out a device to everybody. We had to make sure that everybody was able to use that device, and so on and so on and so on. So that period was with quite some frustrations. What I can say now that we are some months after the go live of the first part of the project, and some months after the go live of the second part, is that we get more positive reactions on the fact that they can do things with their devices. We didn't only put SuccessFactors on the device, we also put the Google Suite on the device. And what we see is that people start to use it first for communication reasons, like using Hangouts with their teams, sending information about what has to be done when they left the store. The store is open from 8 in the morning till 8 in the evening. the manager is not always there, so he uses these ways of communicating, and that is picked up very quickly, and that is most of the people are very pleased with that. And then the other applications come on. In total, there are, I think, about 20 apps that are available now on the devices, going from communication apps, as I said, email to SuccessFactors, but also the communication on the operational level from the HQ to the stores. So the feeling is positive, although I'm sure there are still some people that put their phone in the closet when they come at work, and they take him out when they go home. We never forced it. We always said we make sure that they can use it. We will help them, and at a certain moment in time, we will close off the other ways of working. That will be done after phase 2. Then nobody will be able to do anything on paper anymore, and everybody will have to work on digital. But now we are in a phase in which we leave open the way they work with it. But reactions are more and more positive since go live. Thank you.
How many people within Carrefour were engaged in the implementation? How many full-time? Maybe different. It depends.
Yeah, that depends. For the soft HR modules, we had one responsible per module, one subject matter expert, because we couldn't get any more. For the implementation of Employee Central, we started with 2 full-time persons on the project, but then it grew since we implemented also a people service center and an administrative department, which started also in the project as first. During the rollout, we had extra on that about 12 trainers and a coordinator. So it's been sorry, and I forget, we had 6 people that were working on communication and change. Not all full-time, but that's an important part as well. So it's a very small team from Carrefour to do all of this work. So I must say that I was pleased that we had people that really know how to work. I can say it like that. So it's because it was a bit fuzzy. 1 person per module for the soft HR modules, then 2 persons for Employee Central, and a separate team for change and communication, and a separate team for training and rollout. 12 for training and rollout, 6 for communication. That's about it. And me, I was there too.
And maybe just to give my insight on that, I think indeed the Carrefour team has done a tremendous job with the limited resources that were, let's say, assigned. And I think indeed the startup of many initiatives at the same time was sometimes a challenge to get everything in place. But like Jan said, a lot of people, put in a lot of work. So that's great fun to work with. Just to see, maybe this interesting question: did you stay within the budget? Again, there, I can tell this from my end. I think for the talent modules, that indeed this was the case. That Carrefour was able to stay within the foreseen budgets. I think where we saw a shift to the Employee Central implementation there, given the different approach as well, we indeed saw additional changes and additional requirements with additional challenges, which caused indeed additional budgets to be spent.
Very important to stay in budget if you talk about data migration and replication is the quality of your data. We had quite some difficulties with the quality of our data in our ERP, SAP HR system, which caused that we had to do extra runs on data migration, and extra runs on data migration means that you run out of time, and then of course, if you run out of time, you run out of budget. All together, I think it was still within a reasonable period, but we had 6 months. We needed 6 months more than we planned in the beginning. Most important is it's working now.
Okay, then maybe a final question. Did you use the SuccessFactors implementation workbooks? Yeah, I mean, obviously this is a key tool in all of our SuccessFactors implementations. So the advantage with Accelerators is that they come pre-filled with the configuration options that we have been included in the Accelerators, but they are also maintained obviously during the project and handed over at the end of the project. So indeed, no matter how you look at it, it is still a good way to capture and reflect the choices that you make within the project, and to make sure that this is kept sane and correctly. We use the implementation workbooks correctly. Okay, so with that, I think we ended. We're at the end of this webinar. Webinar has been recorded, so we can share the link after the session has been completed and ended, so you can feel free to share this with other colleagues. Stay tuned for more Flexso webinars to come further down the line. We'll be starting a series of discovery on extensions in SuccessFactors during the summer months, and obviously even more after summer. So thank you all for joining. Thank you, Jan, for sharing your insights, and hope to see you again sometime soon. Bye-bye.